Did you know Toto the dog from the original Wizard of Oz made more money than some of the human actors? Toto was played by Terry, a female brindle Cairn Terrier. She was paid $100,025 a week. By comparison, some of the Munchkins were only paid $50 to $100 per week. And because of the popularity of the film, Terry's owner and trainer officially changed her name to Toto. Welcome back to my beloved web series, A Star, where each episode we focus on the history, the scandals of a Hollywood actor who was an animal. These long neglected careers remain some of the most prestigious and magnanimous in all of Hollywood. Golden Age stars, working actors of today. There are so many stories that fall by the wayside, which is understandable. They have incredibly short lifespans. You would not believe every single one of these is a fucking tragedy about to unfold, alright? But let's not get down in the dumps. Today's star is well remembered and well celebrated and might have a little movie out of the moment, despite dying in 1945. I'm of course talking about Terry, the Cairn Terrier who rose to power in MGM's classic The Wizard of Oz. Look at this little motherfucker. Terry, now known as Toto, was born in the Great Depression. This dog had to go from ranch to ranch, always trying to pick up big bales of hay, until one day the emotional turmoil, the economic situation hit breaking point. The dog keeps pissing on the rug. In this time, very few Americans could afford a rug, so the unknown, unnamed, struck from the record previous owners of Terry, decided to get her trained with the famous dog trainer Carl Spitz. "We'll get this mud spick and spam," was the official quote given at the time. But after dog rearer Spitz taught this dog how to not go pissing anymore, he rang up the phone, and it's a dead line. Terry, the female Cairn Terrier, had been abandoned by her owners. It has been highly speculated in recent years that Terry's previous owners were linked to oil tycoon J. Paul Getty. Getty purchased Pacific Western Oil Company and also shares of Tidewater Associated Oil Company, making it the country's 9th largest oil company. In just 5 years, he managed to become one of the great success stories of the American Great Depression, so clearly there was no time for bedwetting Cairn Terrier Terry. This I can empathize with deeply. At times in my own life, I have to get on the grind and become a professional. My mind goes to downstairs and my own dog, Macklemore, here he is. Sometimes he wants to pee. Sometimes he wants to go outside. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he's quite fearful. And he's actually quite a temperamental dog. But sometimes I'm like, I can't take a break now, Macklemore. What am I to do? But I suppose that's the difference between owners. I will stop everything I'm doing. I will risk our financial income and I will go walk that dog. Carl Spitz taught this dog to act, adopting Terry as one of his own. It was on the film Bright Eyes with Shirley Temple that Terry first got her first big acting break. She was to audition with Shirley Temple's poodle Ching Ching. The two struck up a very strong bond, and by her 6th audition, Terry was a star. In this time, she's worked with directors Fritz Lang, Carl Brown on Barefoot Boy, and William Nye on Son of the Navy, in which Terry played the titular Son of the Navy. Before walking the yellow brick road, Terry's greatest film role was in the now lost Parade for the Old Milkmaid. Whilst not the starring dog of that picture, it was with the role Baby Jean's that she was truly gaining popularity across America. You might notice it's strange that a female dog was being cast for so many male roles, Toto himself being a male dog. But the origin of this comes from a much more complicated, quite sad, oral history. John Gilbert, born July 10th, 1897, was a romantic leading man of the silent film era, often known as the Great Lover to his many adoring fans. Gilbert was one of many who could not survive the transition to sound. He died on January 9th, 1936, with countless films under his belt, a celebrated actor who was immediately forgotten by the time of the Great Depression. It was only when silent film star John Gilbert reincarnated into the young Cairn Terrier that he had another chance in the age of talkies. It is this wealth of experience that perhaps made Terry such a fantastic screen presence. In the 1940 western, The Cantankerous Girl, Terry can be seen doing the signature breaststroke gag, a common signature of Gilbert's work, to rousing applause. What does it mean? Audiences of the time knew. They knew full well. Modern historians are lacking so much of the context that was lost of World War II, so much memorabilia going up in smokes or repurposed. But this link is preserved by the very pages of Terry's own autobiography, More Than a Dime a Dozen, a book that goes into much more detail on this subject, which is a long and complicated read. Film historians in the years since have asked how it can Terry be a boy dog name when it is clearly a female dog, and I think it all becomes a lot more clear when you realise that that a female, there's a star who is now in the dog, who it became the dog and is now a true silent actor. Dogs do not speak, not even the really good ones. Okay, getting away from it. Male name or no, Terry's name changed forever in 1942 to Toto, after the dog's most celebrated film appearance. This film was called The Wizard of Oz. A film of much colour and candour, and little people too, but that's okay. They got paid. Dorothy was a character of many systems, so it was deemed that she would need a female dog co-star to not only appeal to audiences of the time, but to navigate those various systems. The first choice, of course, was the nearest dog to hand, which was the young Cairn Terrier. At age 4, she had already built up such a storied filmography that there were few other choices, even in the golden age of Hollywood, where animal actors were a dime a dozen, a sentiment that would later influence the name of the autobiography. Wizard of Oz. I have seen this film. There are parts that are scary. For real, for real. There are times I am worried for the dog on set. In one famous instance, Toto's foot was trodden on by a member of the cast, spraining it intensely. For the next 2 weeks of production, Toto was not needed on set and schedules were rearranged so that he could recuperate the sprained ankle. It was in this time that he was sent to go and live with actress Judy Garland on her ranch, the very same ranch as seen in the film Wizard of Oz. Due to contract negotiations and the state of the studio system, every member of the principal cast had their houses moved to the MGM lot. And it was in this 2 weeks that Judy Garland and the Cairn Terrier built up a great working relationship, with Garland even offering to buy Toto from Carl Spitz. Carl Spitz refused. At a later date, it was found that the cast member that stood on the poor pet's paw was the old Rasmoldo, who was still hanging around the MGM lot at this time, the former rival of late comic actor John Gilbert. Speculations on this conspiracy range from interference from other studios to a lifelong career vendetta, to the silent actor star who ruined his career and was reborn into the Cairn Terrier. The Wizard of Oz set is filled with notorious, infamous anecdotes and dark stories. The Wizard of Oz would turn out to be Terry's only credited role. This Cairn Terrier's salary was more than most working Americans. My dog doesn't bring in any money. Not transparently anyway. This is a dog who loses money at the slots. The film was a runaway success, and the dog was a runaway success when he escaped his kennel in the year of 1943. After a life on set in servitude, it was time to go and spend some of that money.
Hey Toto fans, where I'm standing is where I was about 6 months ago, and this is the memorial to the dog Toto, who was originally called Terry, and he was owned by Carl Spitz. Last time I came, they were building this. It was quite a mess. He was standing over here on the side here off kilter, and I'm here a day after the Day of the Dead, or actually the weekend of All Souls Day, or what's also called the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. And last time I came, they didn't have Mickey Rooney's grave because of the family situation, and now they finally got it together. They finally imprinted his name.
Terry's name was changed in 1942 when every dumb fuck kid who came up to them in the street would call her Toto. To Terry, who had already had a history of changing names and aliases, this came naturally, but Carl Spitz became bitter. Their working relationship broke apart in the later years of Terry's life, never quite accepting the Toto situation. It was in this time that he took to drinking and training other animals that had no business being on an MGM set. This would famously spiral into the tragedy of the 1981 American adventure comedy film Raw, a ferocious comedy where many were attacked by giant fucking tigers. What the fuck were they thinking? Indeed, it was sad, and it was bad that Carl Spitz had fallen to his demons in such a way, thinking he could tame the untamable beasts, when he had the most perfect animal stars in his employ from day one. This came much later. None of this would damage the reputation and the legacy of Toto's performance in The Wizard of Oz, but it is a stain on an otherwise clean history. Personally, as a researcher, a commentator, I think it's a struggle whenever any dog is renamed, especially later in life. Take Macklemore, for instance. His name was changed in 2020 upon adoption. Jack. We tried to find something phonetically similar so he could respond to commands, but then we found out that he doesn't respond to commands. So Macklemore he remained. The problem is that Mac has an amazing memory. He can remember when you go down a road, a year passes, he will remember which turning to take. Dogs have storied histories. They don't devote any of their brain space to history or self-growth or motion pictures, so they are able to catalogue a working map of every single thing in their vicinity and all nearby threats. If there was once a fox down this road, he will go look for the fox. If there was a time he witnessed his owner get pumped, he will go and find out the pumper. The dog constantly surprises and scares me. Much like Toto in the Great Depression, Mac was a COVID-19 baby. But worse than that, he was an iPad baby. He watches TikToks and Vines by the payload. But he is also drawn to the performing arts. He will watch classic film. He won't take his eyes off it. There is a link between these two animals, and I won't go as far to say what I think that link is. But on my phone, I have various text messages from a Sally Flat, who keeps trying to tell me about her ancestry and her lineage to the American working class of the 1930s, saying she has great information for me. I'm not answering the phone to you, Sally. I don't know you. Sally Flat hasn't contacted me since I began working on this video, since I began my research into animal stars and their history. And that makes me glad, and it makes me mad. Luckily, the controversy section on Toto's Wikipedia is non-existent. This was an agreeable, well-behaved dog, which is reflected by her massive body of work. This is an agreeable dog who quickly agreeably found dog roles in every going picture of the time. She birthed one son, Romy, who also went on to become an animal actor, Nepo Baby. And she eventually died at age 13 on September 1st, 1945 of the Great War. Don't worry, listeners. The elderly Toto, the 13-year-old Cairn Terrier, was nowhere near the front lines. I don't think this dog knew that a world war was even happening, as was the case for many Americans. Buried at Spitz Ranch in LA, her grave was then destroyed in 1958, which is terrible, but incredibly efficient. They built a superhighway over it, so that's good. Just a fucking dog, don't cry about it. And she had her own plot, dedicated to her in 2011 at the Hollywood Forever ceremony, which can still be visited today. for a high, high price, but never forgotten.